Have you ever bought a huge bunch of celery for just one recipe, used 2 or 3 stalks, put the rest in the refrigerator, and completely forgot about it? Then, a few weeks later, you open the crisper drawer and find a sad, rubbery stalk that looks more like a bendy straw than fresh celery. It feels like throwing money straight into the garbage, right? But what if you could keep your extra celery in the freezer for months, so you always have some ready whenever a recipe calls for it? Today, I'm sharing a simple guide to freezing celery properly. We'll look at why celery becomes soft and watery after freezing, the best way to prepare it for long-term storage, a quicker shortcut when you're short on time, and one important mistake you should avoid. So, let's get started. Before we put celery in the freezer, it helps to understand what happens inside the vegetable. Celery contains a lot of water. When you freeze raw celery, that water forms ice crystals. Those ice crystals can damage the delicate structure of the celery's plant cells. That's why, after thawing, frozen celery usually won't have the same crisp, crunchy texture as fresh celery. Instead, it can become soft and watery. So here's the first rule. If you want that fresh, crunchy texture, save your celery for salads, veggie platters, or snacks with your favorite dip. But for soups, stews, sauces, stocks, casseroles, and stir-fries, frozen celery works beautifully. If you want to preserve celery for longer-term freezer storage while helping it maintain better color, flavor, and quality, blanching is the best method. Blanching briefly cooks the celery and helps slow down the natural enzymes that can affect its quality during frozen storage. Here's how to do it. First, rinse the celery thoroughly under cool running water to remove any dirt. Trim off the ends, then cut the celery into the size you normally use for cooking. Small slices or bite-sized pieces are perfect because you can use them straight from the freezer later. Bring a large pot of water to a rolling boil. Add the chopped celery and blanch it briefly. For small pieces, around 2 to 3 minutes is generally enough. You don't want to cook the celery completely. You're just giving it a quick blanch. As soon as the blanching time is finished, transfer the celery into a large bowl of ice water. This quickly stops the cooking process and helps prevent the celery from becoming too soft. Let it cool for a few minutes. Next, drain the celery and spread it out on a clean kitchen towel or paper towels. Pat it thoroughly dry. This step is easy to overlook, but it's important. The less excess moisture on the surface, the better your celery will freeze and the less likely you are to end up with excessive ice buildup or freezer burn. Now spread the celery pieces out in a single layer on a baking sheet. Try not to let the pieces touch too much. Place the tray in the freezer until the celery pieces are firm. Pre-freezing helps keep the pieces separated so you don't end up with one giant frozen block. Once the celery is frozen, transfer it into airtight freezer bags or freezer-safe containers. Remove as much excess air as possible before sealing. And don't forget to label the container with the date. That little step makes it much easier to keep track of what's in your freezer. For best quality, try to use your blanched frozen celery within about 10 to 12 months. Now, what if you're short on time and don't want to deal with boiling water and an ice bath? Can you simply chop raw celery and put it straight into the freezer? Yes, you can, but there's a trade-off. Unblanched celery is faster and easier to prepare, but its color, flavor, and overall quality may decline more quickly during long-term freezer storage. So if you're only planning to keep it for a shorter period, freezing it raw can be a convenient shortcut. Just remember that the texture will still become softer after thawing. Here's one of the best things about having frozen celery ready to go. You usually don't need to thaw it first. In fact, thawing celery on the counter can make it even more watery. Instead, take the amount you need directly from the freezer and add it straight to your cooking. You can toss frozen celery into soups, broths, stews, chili, sauces, casseroles, stir-fries, and stocks. It will thaw as it cooks and still add that familiar celery flavor and aroma to your dish. And because it's already washed, chopped, and ready to use, you've saved yourself time on busy cooking days. So the next time you find yourself with half a bunch of celery left over from a recipe, don't let it sit forgotten in the back of your refrigerator. Wash it, chop it, blanch it, cool it, dry it, and freeze it. It's a simple way to reduce food waste, save money, and always have cooking-ready celery available when you need it. And remember the most important point. Frozen celery is great for cooking, but don't expect it to stay crisp like fresh celery. If you found this storage tip helpful, hit the like button, leave a comment below, and tell me, what's your favorite recipe to use celery in? And don't forget to subscribe for more practical food storage tips, kitchen hacks, and ways to reduce food waste. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.